Okay, folks, we are back. We're live. And yes, there we go. Back again, gents. Turn this music off because I know Joe loves it so much. Our techno.
I love it so much.
What is it? It's like robotica porn? Is that like a new genre that we've made?
Electro-technica porn scrumpy music.
It was actually somebody got in touch with me on Twitter this week and they recommended that we play some of their music. The thing was, it was really up your street. It was dark. It was kind of loud. Good tunes, just not my cup of tea. So we might take a little listen to that later. Scott's smiling away. Scott knows what I'm talking about, right? Joe listens to the kind of stuff that I expect Daimler had on in the background. You know, when he was chopping
Scott,
up dinner.
What? Back me up here. What's better? Robotica porn music or what we listen to? Or mute.
Scott,
it's okay.
Scott's muted up. You see?
Well. you know, if we were going to take the democratic route,
let's do that.
This, I think Kev is in for a world of hurt.
Yes, he is.
If we were going to be choosing the music for the live stream. But, you know, the kind of music that me and Joe listen to, let's just say it's not mainstream.
And, I was going to say, it's not in the public's best interest, probably, that they listen to it.
No. But that's okay. I like to keep it that way.
Me too.
If mine is like robot porn music, you guys listen to like serial killer music.
Why would you say that? It's more
see, Kev. See, that's the thing.
You see, imagine it, Scott, right? Imagine it. You're a young lady, you know, you're walking home late at night and you hear my robot porn coming out of a car window, coming up behind you. You ain't going to feel threatened, dude. You know you're getting home that night, right?
I don't know. That's disturbingly on the verge of Chester music.
I don't know, man.
I would be very, very uncomfortable if I was a woman and somebody rolled up on me blasting that. I'd be like,
Hey, you never know what these soy boys play nowadays. But before we get sidetracked, I want to thank you all for tuning in yet again to the craziest kind of... Is it a podcast? Is it a live stream? Is it just like the Toxic Man Cave? Toxic Man Cave, right?
Yeah, probably more that like Toxic Man Cave.
Yeah, so
I'll go with that, yeah.
Yeah, so before we launch into it, and we've got quite important stuff to get into to start with. But remember, you can join the channel. You can get all the cool emojis. You can have the gay frog. There's going to be lots to talk about the gay frog tonight.
Lots that will become talk.
Yeah, that will become clear in a moment. But you can also support the stream. I'm sure the mods in the chat room from time to time will drop the links. You can do it via Streamlabs. You can do it via PayPal. You can also do it via the super chat on here as well. But remember, you don't have to. Only if you want to, and only if you can, because we'll be here every week anyway. And Ken Webb, some of you might not know who Ken Webb is. Well, just like Popeye, used to be a bit of a kind of YouTube star back in the day, before before
it times was change the channel, man. I mean, that's where it was at, you know.
If you have ever seen the Obama deception, and you watched it on YouTube, that's on
where you watched it.
YouTube channel.
Yeah.
And I don't know, Kev, but you might check and see how many views the Obama deception has on Ken Webb's channel. It's
millions.
It's in the double-digit millions.
Yeah.
Something like that.
You know what? Yeah, we're going to have Ken back next week. Hang on, I'm going to dig that up because that's a good point. That's a huge YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Even though he's not been all that active.
He was one of the originals. And interestingly enough, he hit 100,000 subscribers or something very early on. And he was one of the juggernauts. As a matter of fact, he and Jones were, he was as big, if not bigger than Jones at one point in time.
Yeah.
And basically he got neutered and was one of the first ones to really start getting raked over the coals and censored. So that's going to be interesting to kind of discuss, because he was kind of a pioneer on both fronts. He was popular at the time when YouTube was, when I say it was a powerful tool, it most certainly was. When you put out something, it went to every single subscriber you had. And
that was before
there was no limiting factors to it.
There it is there, 15 million views. You're right, Scott. 15 million.
Yeah.
15 million views. And that's where I first saw the Obama deception. You know, somebody told me to go watch it, and I looked it up, and it was right there, changed the channel.
Yep.
And that's where I saw it. And I was like, wow, you know, that was a pretty crucial film for me, you know, at the time. You know, that's back when Jones was making very, very hard-hitting documentaries.
Powerful stuff, yeah.
Very, very powerful stuff. And so, yeah, for those of you out there who don't know who Ken Webb is, yeah, you know, these guys are right. He was a total juggernaut in the YouTube realm. And he was kind of like a canary in the coal mine, basically. You know, like Joe said, he was one of the first to really start feeling the censorship and them, you know, doing a lot of the shady stuff to people.
You got to remember that a lot of people, when as YouTube evolved, because YouTube was not a platform that you made money on, it was just a platform. It was a video sharing platform. And then Google Ads came along, and it made content creators, especially content creators like Ken Webb, it allowed them to basically do it for a living. And that was the whole plan all along. And then they went and screwed with that. They started with that first. They started pulling Google ad funds. And basically what that did is it made it possible for people to do this kind of stuff without having to go pound the pavement for sponsorship. Because before that happened, that's what you had to do. And it was hard work, because in the demographic that watch this kind of content, the demographic is not well off. As a matter of fact, it's low to middle income at best. And so there's no money in this arena for sponsorships because they don't translate to sales. So they started in the beginning. That's how you did it. And it wasn't that bad. It was a lot of work to get it, but you did it. But as time evolved, they come to find out, man, this demographic's broke. And so what happens? Google Ads come in and say, no, you don't have to do that anymore. It's good for merchants. It's good for content creators. It's good for us. And they sold it, and people bought into it, and they made a lot of money on it. And what happens? They got people hooked. They quit their jobs. They started doing this full time. And then they pulled the rug out from underneath of a lot of people. And it upended their lives in really bad ways. You know, Ken got massacred by that. Kev, you felt the pinch.
Oh, yeah.
Anybody that was reliant. Daily Sheeple went under, you know. There was so many people that just got totally destroyed by that. And they knew what they were doing. But that was step one. Then you had the people that are defiant, you know, that stayed with it through it all. Kev, you're one of them. There's so many out there that have got hurt by that, but it didn't kill them. And they knew that was going to happen. So now what happens? Now they basically drop the hammer. And they do it for a reason. They're overshooting the mark because they need that. This is the shock value of the Hegelian dialectic. This is being played out right now. So amp it up, amp it up, amp it up, amp it up. Next step. Next step is going to be the president stepping in. And the president's going to step in, or the government's going to step in, and they're going to propose a solution that's going to look like they're going to roll back a lot of this stuff. But in essence, they're getting in place the control that they've wanted all along. So they're overshooting the mark. They're using high-profile people to make a public perception or an impact, then you're going to have the reaction. But the solution's going to put in place parameters that didn't exist before, but are going to seem like easing of hostilities or tensions. And that's what you're going to end up having. That's how it works. And it's being masterfully played out. And that's why I can't believe that there isn't more uproar and backlash on it. And there needs to be as they continue to talk solution, because that solution is going to put safety mechanisms in place. I say safety in quotation marks. That
because in the end
before, but are going to limit people's ability to do things.
Yeah, because in the end, it's the government intervening and the government providing the solution. You know,
Right.
and as we know, how well does the government do at managing anything? Not very well, and it just gives more control to the government.
Well, not only that, but it also, what does it do? It limits free choice. It limits that ability for me to say, look, I don't need the government to tell me what's best for me. I know what's best for me. One of the people that got banned, Scott, one of the people that got banned was Milo, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So Milo gets banned. I can't stand the guy. But does that mean I think he should get banned? No. I just choose not to listen to him. I choose not to watch him. I choose not to participate and support his content. That's my choice. You don't have to ban him for that.
So what is the solution? You know, how do you stop this from happening? How do you stop all of this deplatforming and the silencing of people? You know, what is the solution?
We have to find a solution around the internet and social media. That's basically it. Okay, they've now owned the internet. This current construct of the internet. Now what do? Do we start our own? You know, do you dial back and say, okay, we'll be using dial-up BBSs and things like that, or do we find a new medium to do it? I don't know.
We've reached the stage now where they're literally talking about mentioning Gay Frog. You see, that's why we're going to be talking about Gay Frog tonight, because we're at the point now where I don't even know if we can mention the guy's name anymore.
They're blacking out his pictures. They're blurring him out.
You know, he runs that website, Binfo Bars. You know, it rhymes with Binfo Bars. Yet that's how bad we're getting, because sharing a link for a Binfo Bars article over on Facebook now, that can see you landing up in Facebook jail. You know, we're literally being trained what to think.
It reminds me of like ancient Egypt when they would just erase history. You know what I mean? Like completely just wipe out history, and they would just destroy the face of like of any sort of statues or anything representing whatever pharaoh or enemy they was before them. They just wipe them out of the annals of history, and it's almost the same thing. You're seeing like the digital version of it where first they just unperson somebody. They completely remove them from social media. They remove their ability to conduct commerce, right, by freezing their PayPal or preventing them from doing any kind of digital commerce.
Yeah.
And then if you even mention their name or utter their name or post anything related to them, then you're on the chopping block.
And now look at this, Scotty. Now people are self-censoring. Look at Kev right there.
Mm-hmm. How long have I been doing it? How long have I been using acronyms for different stories that I know? And I've been looking a lot into algorithms this past week, obviously getting ready for some shows that are coming up. But see the level that these algorithms go to actually get to know you on a personal level, not because it's just interested in you, it's interested in how to addict you into that particular website, into that particular technology. It watches you, it observes you, it knows exactly when to send you an alert. You know, I often question, out of 5,000 Facebook contacts, how many of them are even real? And now I question it more, because with the use of bots and agents, that AI is able to prompt you even further, even more. It's so
Crazy.
spooky. It truly is. But Joe, you mentioned government getting involved, and just so I can get rid of this headline, I've got it here. And Trump claims his administration is watching closely after conspiracy theorist Paul Joseph Watson's Facebook ban. I mean, I've met Watson. I've had a beer with him at Bilderberg. He's gone on to be an absolute megastar on YouTube. I agree with about 50% of what he says, and when he's right, he's damned right. But the stuff that he's wrong about, or I think he's wrong about, is that enough to get him kicked off? Absolutely not. He's never called for violence, you know. Never heard him talking about going after the groups of people that he does target, he does single out, but he's not been violent with it. He's just pointing out what's going on.
His opinion.
Yeah, and I tell you, I find it suspicious, boys. I find it just a little bit suspicious that
because it's an op. That's exactly.
Yeah, but the mainstream media got to know about this, and they put the stories out before these people got banned, so they all got to use social media one last time to tell people that their ban was coming up. I don't know.
Well, here's the other thing too. The other, you made such a great point about rewriting history, Scott. There's a couple of things that go into this. You know, in the chat, somebody had written something about we need another French Revolution, and okay, so I agree with you. But look at how the French Revolution, how history was rewritten with that. You know, they posed at Napoleon as some sort of wackadoodle, maniacal, frickin' guy with short person syndrome, right? Napoleon was like us. Napoleon was us in that day. And they rewrote him to look like a frickin' asshole, when in reality, he wasn't. He was just like you and me. And he was also basically a freedom fighter. He didn't like that patriarchal bloodline rule that's happened for so long, and he fought against it. And they had to rewrite history.
When people call for a French Revolution, they also need to kind of look into the history of what happened after the French Revolution, and it wasn't very pretty, and it went south really, really fast. So
you know what's weird as well, Scott? We talk about like how time there's almost echoes in history. Well, you've got all that yellow vest protests going on, and that's wild over there, man. Really wild. And that was the last time as well. We've had Notre Dame Cathedral burning recently, right? But the last time that place burnt was during the last French Revolution. So it just shows you how there's almost like weird echoes, little ripples of the past. I'm not saying that... Yeah. Last time I said this, I seen in the comments people were saying I was ridiculous connecting the yellow vest with the Notre Dame fire. I'm not doing that. Not at all. I'm just saying these things are happening at the same time, and it's weird. That's all.
Yeah, there's coinky dinks, almost like shadows of events that happened 200, 300 years ago.
Yeah, you're having social upheaval occurring at the same time that the
church burning at the same time. You know, it's weird.
But we've got all these people getting kicked off Facebook and everything else, right? And this isn't long after we gave the kind of comedy sketch about how Mark Zuckerberg was inviting you into the digital bedroom. Well, he's actually come out now and he's called it the digital lounge. So we weren't far off, boys.
Not far off.
Right? But again, think about what I was saying with the algorithms. You know, you're going to be sitting in one of these digital lounges, chilling out, sharing ideas. Nobody's watching, all nice and cozy. 5 of you in there. How many of them are actually humans that you're participating with?
That is so powerful right there. You've just hit on an enormous point, and that is, it's a construct.
Yep.
It's artificial. It's fake. It's a deception. It's a lie.
That way they can work you out more. They can really prod and probe your like psychology. They can see what makes you move one way or another.
Or they can repress. They can repress any sort of thought. As a matter of fact, Human Rights Watch just released a phenomenal report on China's algorithms of repression. And what they basically did is they reverse engineered a police mass surveillance app for the Xinjiang province. And they wrote extensively about it. I'll give you a little summary here. It says, since late 2016, the Chinese government has subjected the 13 million ethnic Uyghurs and other Turkish Muslims in Xinjiang to mass arbitrary detention, forced political indoctrination, restrictions on movement, and religious oppression. Credible estimates indicate that under this heightened repression, up to 1 million people are being held in political education camps. Yeah, the government's Strike Hard campaign against violent terrorism has turned Xinjiang into one of China's major centers for using innovative technologies for social control. Now, this report provides a detailed description and analysis of a mobile app that police and other officials use to communicate with Integrated Joint Operations Platform, one of the main systems Chinese authorities use for mass surveillance. Now, this policing program basically aggregates data about people and flags to officials those it deems potentially threatening. Yeah. Now, some of those targeted are detainees and sent to political education camps and other facilities. But by reverse engineering this mobile app, it says here, we now know specifically the kinds of behaviors and people this mass surveillance system targets. And the findings have broader significance in providing an unprecedented window into how mass surveillance actually works in Xinjiang, because the IJOP system is central to a larger ecosystem of social monitoring and control in the region. And they also shed light on how mass surveillance functions in China. And these systems, being particularly intrusive and their design, are very similar to those police are planning to implement, not just throughout China, guys, but also here in the United States. Remember, I told you it's about soft implementation here in the United States and using the Hegelian dialectic. They don't have to do that over in China. They can just implement this because they've got people basically beaten to a pulp, and they don't know anything else but basically the government god. So analysis of this reveals that authorities are collecting massive amounts of personal information, from the color of a person's car to their height down to the precise centimeter, and feeding it into the IJOP central system, linking that data to the person's national identification card number. It says here, our analysis also shows that Xinjiang authorities consider many forms of lawful everyday nonviolent behavior, such as not socializing with neighbors or often avoiding using the front door, as suspicious. The app also labels the use of 51 network tools as suspicious, including many virtual private networks and encrypted communication tools such as WhatsApp and Viber. Now, the IGOP app demonstrates that the Chinese authorities consider certain peaceful religious activities as suspicious, such as donating to mosques or preaching the Quran without authorization. But most of the other behaviors the app considers problematic are ethnic and religious neutral. Our findings suggest the IJOP system surveils and collects data on everyone in Xinjiang. The system is tracking the movement of people by monitoring the trajectory and location data of their phones, their ID cards, and their vehicles. It's also monitoring the use of electricity and gas stations of everybody in the region. This is consistent with Xinjiang local government's statements that emphasize officials must collect data for the IGOP system in a comprehensive manner from everyone in every household. And of course, the IJOP system is the AI that's managing and learning all this stuff. Now, when the IGOP system detects irregularities or deviations from what it considers normal, such as when people are using a phone that is not registered to them, when they use more electricity than normal, or when they leave the area in which they are registered to live without police permission, the system flags these micro clues to the authorities as suspicious and prompts an investigation. Get that. There's other elements too. The IJOP system, the AI, is the monitoring. They also monitor personal relationships. Authorities seem to consider some of these relationships inherently suspicious. For example, the IJOP app instructs officers to investigate people who are related to people who have obtained a new phone number or who have foreign links.
Wow.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow,
So
man.
it even flags on guilt by association.
Yes.
This is like persons of interest. I've spoke about this show a lot, but this is like persons of interest on steroids. And you said before, Joe, that they're taking us somewhere with the whole kind of public purge that's going on right now, the public digital purge. They're sending out a message. They're wanting to get something done that they wouldn't get done previously. And it's an internet ID, and it's all one slippery slope towards what we're hearing here with China. Because this system only works on a global scale with everybody participating. And that's why we're seeing global 5G everywhere covered, because you won't be able to escape this system. It's going to be data, them knowing everything about you, predictions about you. It's so creepy. That's the word that keeps coming into my head over the weekend here. It's just so creepy when you think about it.
Detail.
Yeah.
And now this technology has been used in smart cities. The proof of concept has really occurred in smart cities across the world. You've got NEOM being built in Saudi Arabia, but Dubai already has Masdar City, which they have been constructing now for a long time. And it's based upon this same level of intrusion. For all I can say, only people don't view it as that who accept that as their life, because they've kind of bought into this. I'm just going to let the AI control my life, and then I don't have to worry about it. I don't have to make these decisions now. The AI does it for me. And that's what's happening in Masdar City. Now, Masdar City is this city of technology and enlightenment, and you can look it up and see all the propaganda that's out there for it. No cars, no fossil fuel cars or vehicles are allowed in Masdar City. It's all eco-friendly. It's all green technology, all renewable energy. That's kind of what they're going for, and
it's your model. It's your model Agenda 21.
Yeah, very much so.
Metropolis.
Right. Basically. Exactly. And so the IJOP system is that same system that Masdar City uses to manage everything down to what you pee and poop. As a matter of fact, it can manage. It can test your urine content. Your toilet, your smart toilet, will test the content of your urine and flag people if something comes back that you're not supposed to have in it. That's the level of surveillance and detail that these systems get into. That's the weeds, if you will. And it's unbelievable. I mean, you want to talk about concentration camp. That, to me, these places are nothing but concentration camps. You're trying to concentrate populations in these areas and then basically rule by force. And that by doing this, you actually have people, you don't even have to rule by force. People are doing it out of fear, but they're doing it themselves. You see what I'm saying? That control grid is there. And all you've got to do is have that fear of all your privileges now, not rights, privileges are taken away. So make an example out of a few people. And
chilling effect.
That's it. And that's it. And people willingly accept the compromise. That's what we're going to see with this.
No, check this out.
And you,
on you go, Scott.
I was going to say, and then once 5G gets implemented and stuff, like you said, this is going to be on a global scale. And you can already see that this would be implemented probably on the, United Nations level. There'll be a bunch of countries that all kind of, they all will agree to implementing this global grid, under some kind of a global treaty situation. And that's how they'll implement it. That's how they'll.
Yeah. Now, there was just a question in the chat about, is it voluntary in China or it's mandatory? It's mandatory in China. In Xinjiang province, it's a mandatory. People have no control over their participation in this.
No, you're dealing with a communist government. You don't have a choice.
Well,
in anything.
you're talking smart cities and things, and obviously I'm the guinea pig. I'm here in Glasgow, and check this out, because this came to me thanks to somebody we've had on the show before. Her name was Pippa King, and she goes and gets the freedom of information requests and stuff like that. And this is about some of the kind of camera hardware and stuff that we've got in Glasgow. Goes on about advanced video analytics, and says video analytics have been widely used within the security industry for a number of years. The development of newer technology and upgrades to public space CCTV enables its usage to be more efficiently utilized. Now, you scroll down here without getting into the too boring, but basically there's two types of video analytics. One, standard video analytics, which has a number of functionalities depending on license utilized. These are perimeter breaches, intrusion detection, crowd management or overcrowding alerts. See, it's starting to look for when there's too many people gathered. Or if you're loitering too long in one place, that'll send a ping to the police as well. But this is where it starts getting really weird, because it says down here, advanced video analytics suspect search. It says incident tracking, individual involved in ASBO or criminality, could be located via cameras. And then you've got the search function for missing children. You've got to love how they do this. This is a search function only for missing children, because, it can recognize children's faces. But don't you worry, because you're not against children going missing, are you? So it's able to track every face. But down here, this is where it gets really kind of weird. Avatar. If no image is available, an avatar can be created of the description which one completed can be put into the system for possible matches. For a suspect search, provide more effective and speedier locations of individuals involved in antisocial behavior and criminality, support the identification and locating of vulnerable individuals, and support the tracking and locating of missing children. Long story short, and cutting through their crap there, everyone, by the sounds of it, is assigned a digital avatar when you're out and about in Glasgow, and that ties in with all of the top-of-the-range CCTV that you see coming out of places like China, like Israel. Now, bring up Israel, not because I'm anti-Semitic, not in the slightest, but because they are the ones that are running the CCTV in Glasgow. It doesn't go to some hub in Glasgow. Well, it does, but only after it's gone to Tel Aviv first. And they're the ones that are taking all that data in and getting to know us better and better and better all the time, Scott.
And you got to remember, they test bedded a lot of this stuff, on the Palestinians.
Yep.
Right.
So
and also the Taliban, they utilized this technology extensively during the Afghanistan war. The U.S. did, especially, to keep track of all of them. These Cessna planes that you see fly over that belong to the FBI, they utilize that same technology that they used over in Afghanistan and the Israelis used in the Palestinian areas, the Gaza Strip and everything else, to basically keep tabs on everybody. And when I say they can track everything, like the whole Stingray thing and everything, that was all proof of concept over there in the Middle East.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, it's unbelievable how that technology has just made its way out of theater and then into basically society. It's crazy.
Big money as well. This is like the huge kind of big industry that's opening up now, right? The surveillance kind of complex. It's crazy. Yep.
Yeah, it's absolutely amazing. Of course, you take a look at all the threats, and you've got industrial espionage. You always hear China stealing trade secrets and everything else. Everybody's pointing fingers. It happens all the time. And so there is huge money in it, not just militarily speaking, not just from a social media control or social control, societal control, but also, from an industrial standpoint. It's unbelievable. Productivity, right? You go to work, you have no reasonable expectation of privacy at all. I can tell you that there are companies out there that track everything. to the point where if you're late from a break, or anything like that, you're on camera. They got you. And it's 1, 2, 3. I mean, there's no patience for anything. It becomes very, very more machine-like. People are becoming much more machine-like, like they're machine overlords that are watching them all the time.
Imagine the surveillance that, say, a Google employee is subject to, or an Amazon employee, or somebody who works for one of these tech companies. I mean, just think
Scott,
about
in Google,
probably how much tracking is done on their employees. And
Google employees actually get a prompt through from the AI, like their version of Siri on their phones, and it'll it's to make them more productive. So it's like to give them encouraging kind of little thoughts. It's like in Spyrobot. Remember in Spyrobot? We'll play some in Spyrobot tonight.
Forget Spyrobot.
Yeah, we'll get the Spyrobot fired up tonight. But that's basically what it is, and it's the AI. Remember, the AI is trying to learn more about them. It's obviously figured out times of the day and things where you're less productive. And you see how this is then really a tool that is changing us behaviorally, whether we like it or not. It's not just even self-censoring online. I think our whole behavior in the near future, we're going to find ourselves changing it,
Wasn't that the whole premise of the selfish ledger thing that came out about Google? Yep. Was to completely change the behavior of society?
Yep. You think about the power then, we talk about the billionaires that control the world and the ooga booga, the Illuminati and stuff like that. But it's this tech industry, and it's people who have the data. That's who hold the power, right? Because you can print money on the back of having that data to sell. But the things that the things that you can do with that, the power you can wield. So you're talking Facebook, Google, Twitter, just a few companies with all of that data that we know the government's funded them. We've talked about that before, but that's all going into this control system. That's what it's all about. So obvious now, and we're seeing it more and more. And the likes of these stories about Jones and, Gay Frog. We call him Gay Frog on here now. And PJW. It sounds like a brand of cigarette. PJW king sizes or something. Although I wouldn't like to be caught smoking a PJW. That sounds far too wrong.
I mean, but look, it's, and I've been saying this for a long time, right? That these tech companies, these corporations, they're the new monopoly.
Tech-Luminati, Scott. Tech-Luminati.
The robber
barons. Yeah, they are. They are the new robber barons. Where as back in the late 1800s, early 1900s, it was all about oil.
Look at what Standard Oil.
Now, it was about oil and raw materials back then.
Yeah, and look at the railroad industry. Remember the strike? 19th century, they had a strike.
Yeah.
And railroad workers struck. The federal government actually came in and massacred those people and put them back to work. Why? For the robber barons, so that they had that much power, and they put it down. And this was before organized labor ever started.
Oh, boys. On you go, Joe. Sorry, but somebody has sent me a link here that is going to creep you out. This is beyond creepy.
But you're right. So what we're seeing is kind of a soft version of that, or a 21st century version of that, but it's the exact same thing, Scott.
Exactly. It is the exact same thing. It's just in a different form now, right? It's just in a modern form. And like I was saying, back then it used to be about raw materials, oil, steel, and minerals and stuff like that. But now it's about data. It's about information. It's about having all of that information on people. And so we're just in the same situation to where we have these you got to look at Google, or say look at Facebook as Standard Oil, look at Twitter or Google as just your different factions of your big monopolies. And so
Yeah. Wow. This is one hell of an article here.
Whoa, right. This is from somebody in the chat room now. Kristen, thank you for alerting me. Kristen, one of the mods in there. And Nancy, so good to see you in there, and I'm so glad you've had a clean bill of health, honestly. So myself and Anne, absolutely delighted to hear that. I know the guys here are as well. But what an absolute brilliant article. Check this out, folks. And we've just been talking about the avatar that they might have for us in Glasgow when I walk out the door, you know. Some avatar over my head probably says I'm always in debt, you know, do a podcast, I'm a threat to society, I'm a terrorist. I'm probably glowing amber towards red. Well, get this, because it's not half as creepy as this avatar here. This comes from futurism.com, and it says ex-Googler company has voodoo doll avatar-like versions of you. Holy shimoly. It says, man. Tristan Harris, a former Google design ethicist, I bet he's dead ethical, says that contrary to popular belief, those eerily hyper-targeted ads that are very popular, for the very product you just talked about, aren't popping up because your phone's mic is spying on you. Instead, Google and Facebook have gathered so much information about you and your habits that the corporation can simulate what Harris calls a little voodoo doll avatar-like version of people in order to predict which ads they might click or products they might buy. This is according to the Australian broadcasting company. It's a creepy image. Giant companies using your online behavior to construct your personality and interests from the ground up. That reveals the futility of digital privacy in the era of big data. And this is exactly what we're talking about. And this is exactly why it's ridiculous when Mark Zuckerberg stands there and tells you that nobody's going to look at your encrypted digital lounge. You can take your shoes off, you can get your freak on, you can do your drug deals. Nobody's going to see it, not even Facebook. It's ridiculous because all of it's going into this avatar, whether it looks like a voodoo doll, Scotty, a transformer, who cares? They know us to the level now where that avatar, they're literally running us in simulations because they know how we work.
Right.
Yes, I was just about to say, isn't this pretty much what the sentient world simulation was, where everybody's represented as a node?
Yep.
You know what I mean? And so they're
kind of feed the algorithm, the better it can plan and make decisions.
Yep.
You know?
Exactly. So they've already harvested so much data on people that they don't even necessarily have to spy on you anymore. They can pretty much nail down and recreate your habits and your personality and everything like that, and run sort of a digital clone of you and pretty much gauge what you're going to do based on that. I mean, it's so weird, so creepy, man.
Listen to this, boys. This is, oh my word. Just highlight this here. I don't have to listen to your conversation because I've accumulated all the clicks and likes that you've ever made. And it makes the voodoo doll act more and more like you, Harris said on the topic of extremely hyper-targeted advertisements. Quote, all I have to do is simulate what conversation the voodoo doll is having, and I know the conversation you just had without having to listen to your microphone. Holy shimoly, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
Woo.
That's the level of control. That's the and because we're so plugged in, to the digital side of things, it truly does. It just goes to show you also the power of the echo chamber too. That and this whole social media concept. You brought up just how fake. You can have thousands of bots. You don't know who's real and who's not. All those profiles on Facebook, all those people you friended, you don't know who's real and what's not.
And even more so now, Joe, more so that they're trying to learn our more inner thoughts. The fact they're trying to let us get our guard down. You know, definitely, there's going to be bots in there trying to talk to you, trying to learn about you, man.
And there's also the idea that people portray themselves and their lives differently on social media than it actually is in the real world. And so, let's just say this. You're going along and you look at your Facebook feed and you see one of your good friends or whatever is on a cruise and they're posting these pictures of just how good everything is and everything else. But in reality, their life is a total mess, a train wreck, heavily in debt, all this kind of stuff. And you don't know all that. All you know is what they choose to put up there and what they see. But you have this sense of, man, my life sucks. Look at me. I can't do anything like that. I can't do this. Look at all the fun they're having. When in reality, they're not. And then you end up feeling, this sense of, man, you're left wanting, desiring, almost reaching for that stuff when your life is actually much better than theirs in reality. It just paints it screws with both, on the one hand, you've got people projecting a reality that doesn't exist. And on the other hand, you've got people seeing that reality that doesn't exist, and it's affecting their reality, because it puts them down. They get into depression.
And in some ways, Joe, you've got the crowd that will come along, like the virtue signalers that will reinforce this delusional life that people are posting online.
Oh, yeah. And, these puritanical crusades, they take on a life, and it's unbelievable. The I know what's best for you crowd, it gives it so much power. And I can't stand that. I really, truly can't stand that. There's so many ways that you see that manifest. And there's certain belief structures out there that advance it more than the others. And I've been... this past week, there's been a lot of life lessons in my family that have put things in a different perspective for me, and the way that my family handles crisis mediation and conflict resolution, because we often think that it's okay. Here's what this is what the epiphany I had this week, is that humans from the very earliest ages are almost programmed to be destructive in nature, and everything we do seems to be of a destructive type of force or energy. And you wonder why we have all this conflict and this division, because we're taught that there's two sides and it's always this, and I've got to be right and you've got to be wrong. And in some aspects, there's right and wrong. But when you deal with conflict, the best energy to put towards things is constructive energy. Just like, what makes darkness go away? Does more darkness make the darkness go away? No. But light makes the darkness go away. So why wouldn't you use something from a love or a light energy to put out or extinguish the darkness, the evil? Yet when we have conflict, that tends not to be the case. We tend to be destructive towards one another, and that's the problem. Is, are we strong enough to, when facing that kind of conflict, to be, loving and constructive? And that's kind of what I did. And it turned the situation around instantly. And I was like, whoa, I can't believe it. So now if we just do that, like in everything we do, you take the power away from them. And it's messed up, Kev, because, you always hear people say, well, this planet belongs to the prince of the air or the devil. Man, does it ever? I mean, there's, of course, aspects of
powers
creation
and principalities,
stuff,
Joe. Powers and principalities, as they say. But Scotty, I know you're sitting waiting to jump in here, man.
Well, going back to the whole data collection thing we were talking about, I think that while everybody's been focusing on, Facebook and Twitter and these social media companies, I think there's a company out there that's been flying under the radar that that we used to talk about a lot, and that would be Microsoft and old Bill Gates. Well,
Yeah.
I know he's not at the helm anymore, but I mean, think about how many computers around the world use Windows as an operating system, right? And what are we communicating on right now, guys? Skype, right? And Skype is pretty much the premier video messaging platform, right? And so that this whole conversation that we're having right now is being recorded. It's being data mined. It's, all of our voice prints are pretty much being taken, and everything we discuss is being fed into whatever system Microsoft is doing. And they're just as much involved in AI and artificial intelligence and machine learning and all of this stuff as any other of these corporations. In fact, they've been around the longest. You know what I mean? Microsoft has had their they've been dug in for a long time, and they've been the pioneer of a lot of this stuff.
Right.
And so I think while everybody's focusing on the social media giants, Microsoft is kind of flying under the radar on all this, and they're continuing to to push on stuff. Well, what is this we got going on here, Ken?
Well, when we accept the cookies on this is quite funny. Microsoft excludes Minecraft's creator from the anniversary event over his comments and opinions. His comments and opinions about what, I hear you ask? Well, he just happens to be a heavy believer in... He also recently endorsed the QAnon conspiracy theory.
Oh, no.
Yes, the guy they turned into a billionaire because of his Minecraft game. Love it or hate it. Guy's a genius. Made billions out of it, right? Microsoft's golden boy. Until you talk about the 17th letter of the alphabet. So let that be a lesson to anyone out there. Sometimes it's best to keep your crazy conspiracies to yourself. Oh, yeah.
And then, of course, you have the people, Scotty, that say, well, it's a private company, so they can do that.
That was almost scripted. That almost feels like you set me up to do that story there, guys. I didn't know how I was going to sneak in that story, but Scott, I thank you, dude. I heard Microsoft, I'm thinking, I can do it. I can do it, man.
Well, the whole, they're a private company, they can do what they want thing is...
bullshit.
Private companies aren't allowed to violate your rights, right? Like, so if a private company decides, well, you know what, let's just discriminate against black people and not no, they're going to get sued. They're going to face legal consequences for that, because they're violating the rights of somebody, right? So, these social media giants, when people go, well, they're just private companies, they can do whatever they want. Well, no, they're engaged in discrimination, and they're violating the free speech rights of individuals. That's
what it all plays into it, dude. And it's discriminatory.
See, glad you brought this up, because I had this up as well. I mean, listen to this. This is how they come after people. This is how they came after Gay Frog, Paul Joseph Watson, Milo, the rest of them. It says here, policy rationale. In an effort to prevent and disrupt real-world harm, we do not allow any organization or individuals that proclaim a violent mission or are engaged in violence from having a presence on Facebook. Now, no harm in that. I mean, I've got no problem with that. If you're doing something violent, if you're calling for violence, fair dues. However,
exactly, because calling for violence isn't protected under free speech.
No.
But the thing is Jones never called for violence.
That's exactly my point, dude. I've never known Milo. I hate Milo. Can't stand the guy, but I've never heard him calling for a violent revolution or anything.
No.
Paul Joseph Watson, he never calls for violence.
What about that Kathy Griffin? Remember that comedian? She stood there with Trump's severed head and had all the blood dripping off it. Kathy Griffin. She never got banned. I mean, that looked violent, right? I mean, that's more violent than anything Jones ever. Gay Frog. Right, but it goes on to say here, right? organizations and individuals involved in the following: terrorist activity, fair enough. Organized hate, well, depends who
what
makes
is that?
Yeah,
Define that.
yep. Mass or serial murder, okay, human trafficking, organized violence and criminal activity.
So-
but here's the thing, though, guys, that I wanted to kind of make the point on quickly.
Yeah.
Right now, this is why I said in the title that the digital purge is coming for you. Because these algorithms that are learning all the time and getting better all the time, they still can't discern. And they can't discern if you're posting, negatively, say, about the subject of human trafficking, or if you're talking bad about a serial killer, how disgusted and outraged you are. Shouldn't be a problem. But because you're touching that topic, because you're on there, then boom, you're gone.
There's that, right. That's right. Great case. Was that one gentleman that does the interviews with children with rare illnesses?
Yes, exactly.
And he got his chat flagged and all this kind of stuff. And all he's doing is helping kids. And it's unbelievable that would happen. And YouTube is sticking with it. The problem that you have with these is that there is, and if you look at this, they give you definitions, but they're still kind of vanilla in nature. And look at this, like what you just pulled up, Kev. A terrorist organization is defined as any non-governmental organization that engages in premeditated acts of violence against persons and blah, 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 blah. But they leave just enough minutia in there, or they'll give you the anybody else we deem necessary.
See,
so
look
they'll
at that.
define it, and then vanilla.
Any non-governmental organization that engages in premeditated acts of violence against people, right, cool, or property to intimidate a civilian population. See, you're right, Joe, that they do leave this very kind of vague. And yeah, a member of a terrorist organization or any person who commits a terrorist act is considered a terrorist. And a terrorist act is defined as a premeditated act of violence against persons or property carried out by a non-government actor to intimidate.
And what is an act of violence? Do they define act of violence? Because it doesn't have to be physical. That's my point.
Exactly. Especially
and then
nowadays,
get hate
because
organizations, and they get into these kind of things that leave it very open to interpretation. And they do that for a reason, because I can go ahead, and this is kind of why Mark Twain said there's lies, damn lies, and statistics. Because you can make anyone fit into any of these definitions at some point in your life.
Yeah.
And it's
and statistics are ridiculous, because statistically 100% of cancer sufferers drink water. It's true, but it has absolutely no relevance to anything. And that's how you can use numbers to screw things up, to fudge things up, and confuse people as well, because that's a big part of this. But I hate organization. Again, look at this. Any people or three or more people that is organized under a name, sign, or symbol, and that has an ideology, statements, or physical actions that attack individuals based on. So these are the things we can't ever talk about. Characteristics, race, religion, affiliation, nationality, ethnicity, gender, sex, sexual orientation, serious disease, or disability. So in reality, you can't ever converse about any of those things online, because it might be deemed as being hateful, right? Basically.
I don't dig it. That is anything. Yeah.
It's crazy.
No. That's how they do it. Plower is in the chat room. Says I'm making him uncomfortable. He's feeling terrorized.
You nasty bastard, Joe.
I know. See?
You see, he went and got changed. See, people don't know this, but Joe went and got changed before the show. He was looking a lot more calm, but then he went and got into this kind of khaki, kind of apocalyptic mode. Whoa. And
that's
feedback.
Right.
Whoa.
You get some good feedback?
Where's that coming from, dude?
I don't know. It's called the Skype Glitch.
Usually that only happens when you add somebody to the call. So, is there anybody there? Are we having like a Skype seance right now? Have we been joined by like?
No, come on, we got to get the fear porn Q crowd to no. Look, it's the NSA. They're listening in right now.
It's the deep state, Joe. Kill brackets on.
Kill brackets.
I think we pissed off Microsoft, and so now they're going extra hard on recording this conversation. That's why we got the echo.
Either that, or we have a very, very heavy listening audience over at Skype and Microsoft, so it's good.
You never know, dude. You never know. I know Kev Baker's show goes down well in Silicon Valley. You know, all these big tech companies.
Honest to God, what kind of threat are we to them anyway?
None. It was like somebody in the chat room had said at the start, like, usually when you declare that you're going on a live stream, you go to the top of people's feeds, but sometimes it doesn't happen. And I can't remember who it was, but they were saying, they're trying to hide Kev's information. It's really exciting to go down that line, and I could play on that and I could hype it up, but it's nonsense. It's truly nonsense, you know.
Yeah.
Look at the numbers we've got. 300 people here. We're not changing the world here. It's like, it's just a public man cave. We're no threat to anyone in reality.
Yeah, really.
You know?
Come now.
It's like somebody else earlier on has said as well, the powers that be are stopping Anthony Patch from joining me on the Kev Baker show. And again, I would love to hype it up. I would love to see the Men in Black came and paid me a visit, and it was all touch and go for a while, but nothing like that. Tony went his own way. He decided to move networks. He's got his own live stream now. And that's it. There's nothing more to it.
That's really all there is to it.
I know it's boring. I know it's shit. I would love to spin it, but it is what it is, you know?
I like the whole going to the dark side. You know, you got Jordy coming on now and all this kind of stuff, and Anthony's gone on his way.
Oh, and a young scientist the other day talking.
So, I mean, you can see how there's a story being played out. Do you not see it come? Come on.
You know that by this time next week, I'll be shilling for Sanctuary. I'll be like, people might even question if it's still me. They might think I've been side-loaded into
cyborg, dude. They took your brain out and they put a new freaking AI in there, and either that or you have neural lace already. That's probably better.
Somebody's sharing another link. I'll check that in a minute, Kristen. I would love to take the neural lace. You know that, Joe. I'd be the first one there.
That's why I'm thinking you might have already.
Yeah. Maybe. Maybe I've been assimilated, Mr. Joe.
Seems like you're all too willing to accept this new way of life, Mr. Baker.
Well, Scott's sitting there laughing away, you bastard.
Well, you know, I mean, I did tell Kev when he was messaging me on Facebook about Jordy Rose coming on and all that stuff. I said, you know, you have become one with the D-Wave now.
He has been assimilated.
Kev will now be forever quantumly entangled with Jordy Rose because he will be speaking to him.
That's right.
What's even creepier was when... What
was even... softball questions. He won't... See, here's the thing.
Oh, here we go.
Here we go.
Here's the juicy part of all this, right? He won't bring anybody else on with him just because this is more than just an interview, you see. You're seeing a baptism in darkness.
Oh, my God.
It is a baptism in darkness being played out on live stream. Yes.
Oh, wow, dude. Wow. That's just too much.
It's okay. It's okay because after the baptism in darkness, David Icke's going to show up and cleanse.
That's right. He's going to come here and cleanse everything. It's going to be a beautiful thing that's playing out. I mean,
there's
you have to understand. Now, Kev, that is a much better story to go with. Look at all the clicks you're going to get. Seriously. You're going to be a super click guy because the truth is really boring. You know? In reality, folks, that's not what's going on. But didn't you see how it sounded so much better? Oh, I'm telling you, Kev, we live in a matrix. We truly do.
we are.
The truth is just so much more dull than what is put out there. And when I see people, I mean, I kind of get it now why you have so many people disconnecting because it's just too much. It's too much.
I think it's to do with the information that's out there as well. There's too much information.
Just too much.
But what really freaked me out was when Geordie came back and said, "It's all right, Kev. I fired up the D-Wave and the show goes really well. We have a blast, you know." He's already listened to it, so there you go. Yeah.
No, it's good. And yeah, I mean, you're going to have people that disagree, and there's always going to be people that are going to make something of it. But in reality, you know, the truth, again, is really dull and shitty. And it's something that he's doing because he wants to. That's it. That's really all there is to it. You know, it has nothing to do with, oh, well, you know, why don't you have Anthony Patch on there with you so he can have an online exorcism at the same time and cleanse and save you both? It's really not that freaking, it doesn't have to be that way.
Man, Joe's on fire today, man.
We can just have differences of opinion, right? It's okay. But do you see, we can't even have differences of opinion anymore.
No.
We can't.
No, they're like chasms now. It used to be you could have a difference of opinion and that would be all right. Okay, you didn't agree, but now, especially online, dude, it's like battle lines are drawn immediately, you know?
That's what I'm saying.
Things escalate fast.
We're so destructive towards one another. It sucks. It's so hard when everybody's being so destructive to not be like everybody else, you know? But I think the best way to fight this thing is just to be these little beacons of light in these vast seas of darkness. And I mean it because people listening in and watching and everything else, you guys know how it is. When you become that beacon of light, you kind of go against the grain, and it's isolating. It's an isolating feeling, and you come under attack. You really, truly do. And so many people have, and it's destroyed them. And
you come under attack in ways that you don't even imagine.
Yeah. Really can't.
It's very, very interesting. And, you know, I've brought this up before, how it seems like so many people who are in this realm of what we do, you know, whatever you want to call it, the truther movement.
I don't even want to say that. It's just a mindset. It's a mindset.
That's what I'm saying. I'm saying people who are in that mindset that just kind of do what we do. It just seems like we've been facing so many attacks from all fronts.
It's like you hit a frequency that does not resonate with the other forces that are out there, and they converge on you. It's, you know, it's like you're this effing SOS signal, you know, and it's like, oh, it's crazy, man. It's absolutely crazy. And you can't, how do you explain it to people unless you've been there? You just can't. But that's what I'm saying. It's just a mindset. And I think if more people took on that mindset of, let's just have a difference of opinion. Let's have a discussion instead of my way or the highway, or I know what's best for you, or that.
Well, Joe, get this right.
Bullshit.
The other night I had Brendan on. That's the wee scientist guy, the astrophysicist. And we have an open and honest conversation, and we got onto vaccines. And Brendan, he's from the other side of the aisle, you know. He thinks that people should get vaccinated. Now, this was at the start of the show, and Brendan said his piece. I came back and said, I don't really agree, and I gave my reasons for it. We had a laugh, and we moved on. Yeah. That's the way it should be.
Yeah, it's interesting, because, you know, I'm for and against them. I'm like on both sides of the fence.
Yeah, it's hard because, you know, it almost sounds like you're totally anti the vaccination science if you're one side and then you're pro the other. But there's so many different kind of nuances to it, you know?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, it's really
when somebody calls me an anti-vaxxer, I say, no, I'm pro-safe vaccination.
Absolutely.
Because the science behind vaccination is proven and it works. But we're getting dirty, poisoned vaccines. So if they were to actually make it safe, you know, it'd take the thimerosal and aluminum and all the crap out of it that's harming people, then I would be more open to saying, hey, yeah, maybe I would take that to mitigate something, especially if it was some kind of very severe pandemic situation. You know what I mean? Not the measles, because the whole thing with the measles is ridiculous, right? It's amazing how the media has turned the measles.
But it has nothing to do with vaccinations. You know that, right? It has everything to do with the influx of all these people from Central and South America, the migrants that are coming up and being dumped into cities all over the United States. And then they're spreading what we up here are not used to, these different germs that we haven't been exposed to in so long.
Yes, exactly. You're right. It has nothing to do with vaccinations. But then they use this as an excuse to, go get your shot. Right.
That's
so,
right.
And you're right. I mean, there's so many different kind of nuances to this thing that, it's just they tend to lump everybody under, well, you're anti-vax, and of course that's what they do. They just group you into this whole thing. And, I personally, I don't get my flu shots or anything like that. Yeah. Absolutely not. But
I think it's rubbish.
But I do believe that there is a safe method of doing it, that they're absolutely capable of doing it, because if you remember quite a few years ago, they came out and they said that high-ranking members of the German government were getting the quote-unquote clean vaccine as opposed to what the rest of the population would get. And I'm like, wait, hold on. So you're telling me that there's a clean vaccine as opposed to what the population, the peons down below are getting? We know what's up with that. Why are they privy to that clean vaccine? Why aren't they getting just the vaccine that everyone else is getting? So, that's where I have my rub with this whole thing is, why are they pushing the dirty, poisoned vaccine on the population while the elites and high-ranking government officials get the one that is clean?
Yeah, that's right. Absolutely. There's just so much that goes into it. But I certainly I think there's too much pushing of each other's values and virtues on other people. You know what I mean? There's too much of that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely.
I don't like it. To me, free will means free will, and we should be able to do what we want to do with ourselves, with our bodies, how we want to live.
If you want to get the vaccine, then go get the vaccine. If you don't want the vaccine, then don't get the vaccine. It's that simple.
If I choose to get the vaccine, right, and I get it, what the hell do I care if you choose to get sick or not? I don't give a crap. That's your choice. I'm vaccinated. Who cares, right? It's that simple. I don't know why it's such a big deal. But people it's like abortion. For some reason, it's a very, very polarizing topic that in reality shouldn't be. It's personal choice. Who gives a rat's patoot? There's so many other things that I need to be worried about. I don't care about that. I got enough crap to worry about. You live your life, I live mine. You mind your business, I'll mind my business. Have a nice life.
And if you look at it from a biblical or Christian standpoint, then you're not supposed to be judging other people. That's God's.
Oh.
That's God's job, is to judge.
Right.
So if they make that choice to have an abortion, which by the way I don't agree with, right? I don't agree with abortion, but if they make that choice, it's not my place to judge them.
Right.
That's for God to make that judgment, when that time comes. So
right.
You're right. It's these kind of like political football topics, right, that they use to distract people with. Gun control is also one of them, because
Same thing.
There's no way in hell they're ever going to take everyone's guns. Let's just be honest with that.
Yep.
There's so many guns in this country that forced confiscation and all of this stuff that people talk about. It's never going to happen. It's never going to happen. It's not going to work. I mean, you can't you can't keep drugs out of a prison. You think you're going to keep guns out of you're going to take guns out of the hands of every American citizen? No way.
Scott,
it's not going to happen.
Scott, I live in a country where there's been like a gun ban for many's a year, and I can assure everyone out there, funnily enough, criminals, they don't pay attention to the law, and the bad guys still have guns.
Surprise, surprise.
I know. Yeah. Imagine that happening, Scott.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's these political football topics, abortion, gun control, tend to be the big ones, and it's all distraction. It's all distraction from other issues that really do have an effect on your life. So they get people bogged down and fighting with each other over these things. It's all part of divide and conquer. It's all part of the divide and conquer strategy. So, yeah, like I said, I'm with Joe.
That's why it's the same thing. Like I tell my kids, they fight like cats and dogs, and all the time they're busting each other's chops, right? And I get it. I mean, they're my kids, so they're going to be chop busters. It's what they do.
Chop busters.
So it's kind of like chop busting boot camp that they're going through, and it's awful. It really, truly is. It's got to be a miserable experience. And it is for me too. And so I get it all the time. Well, how come you're not how come you're not scolding him for that? And how come you're not saying this? And how come you're not doing that? I said, because I don't pay it any mind. And if I don't pay it any mind, eventually it stops because they're not getting the attention. They're doing it for attention, right? So if you just don't pay it any mind, if you ignore it, nope. I said, you guys don't ever learn that. So what if he calls you this or does that or you call him that? It doesn't matter. None of it matters. Why are you letting words get to you like that? Just let it roll, And they don't. And that's why it becomes like chop busting boot camp. They're just there, beating the crap out of one another and verbally abusing each other and all this kind of crap. And
we should do a live stream. We should do a stream.
Just noise.
We should do a stream called that one night.
Yeah, true. But I mean, that's
boot button or butt kicking boot camp.
What did they say in quantum physics? You have to observe it in order for it to be real, in order for it to exist.
It's very true, man.
So don't observe it. Must not be there.
Just close your eyes and make things go away, Joe.
That's right. Not so much like sticking your head in the sand, but just having power over your own construct. That's really what it boils down to.
Talking of the construct, boys, something weird going on. Something really weird going on. We've talked about this for some time. There we go. That's what we've been talking about. And it's speeding up, right? Or at least there's that perception that it's speeding up. Well, I'm going to play just 1 minute of this. Fair use. And we know the people that made it. So we're just going to use this as a kind of a springboard for a conversation because it's not just us that are talking about time. So this comes from Truth Stream Media and it's Melissa Dykes. Head on over there. If you haven't subscribed.
I'm going to text her. I'm going to text her right now and tell her to copyright strike you.
Oh, hell, don't do that, dude. And anyway, it's me. She would let me off. She's an she likes the accent. Come on, we'll be all right.
You're absolutely
so, yeah,
right.
Melissa's been picking up on this time thing as well. And let's take a little listen to a bit of this, and then I'll drop it in the chat room for anyone who wants to watch the full thing. It's already had over 100,000 views. It's absolutely brilliant, so take a little listen.
I got into this discussion earlier. It was pretty strange with Aaron about this phenomena that everyone has of time speeding up. Because you have a lot of people in recent years that are complaining that they feel like time is actually going faster.
Particularly like things seem to be accelerating to something.
Isn't it? I mean, if we look at our life, it seems in the past 100 years, life been accelerating quite fast.
Yeah.
And
Joe, stop texting her, dude. Don't do it.
Faster and faster.
We're getting a lot of answers from physics and psychology claiming that, well, that's just a byproduct of getting older. But that doesn't make sense because if just getting older was simply all it took to feel like time was speeding up, then wouldn't it maintain that the older you get, then it's like the faster time speeds up? So like my great grandma wakes up tomorrow, but she thinks it's next week. I mean, to me, that doesn't really make a lot of sense.
That's never made sense to me either, Scotty. That it's just to do with you getting older. I don't know. It's just I don't know. Especially nowadays as well, because it's like there's something weirder going on, I think.
Yeah, I think maybe some of it kind of applies to that. I mean, it's not just as cut and dry, you know what I mean? Like for example, when you're 6 years old, right? 3 years is half your life. So that seems like a long time to you, right? You know, 3 years is half the time you've been alive. But when you're 60, you know, 30 years is half your life. So in the grander scheme of things, a year is not that long.
It's really not. It flies, man. Absolutely.
Yeah. So when you're younger, that's why when people look back and they have like a lot of nostalgic memories, you know, and they're like, wow, you know, that summer in high school just seemed to last forever, you know, and I did so many cool things because you were a lot younger, and then your kind of perception of that year, it drug out a lot longer because you hadn't been alive as long. So, I mean, there is a little bit of something to it, but there's definitely more going on here than just that. Definitely. Because people, you know, I've noticed, you know, people in my family, it seems like a lot of people I've talked to have noticed what seems like this sudden acceleration in time. You know what I mean? Where people are like, wow, it's already like, you know, where people are thinking, man.
Yeah, we're already past Easter again, dude.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's amazing how fast everything's going.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or people are kind of like, they're off by days. You know what I mean? Like where it's like a Thursday and they think it's a Tuesday, you know, or it seems like it's a lot later in the day than it should be, you know, just all kinds of weird things like that people are noticing that I've found to be there's a lot more to it than just.
Joey Eyelash in the chat room says you have more awareness of time as you get older. What do you think?
I like that.
I think so.
Yeah.
Well, hang on then. We'll just play another minute of this in, because we've definitely kind of qualified for fair use now, because we've added our own commentary on what we've watched. And watch out in the chat room. Yes, watch out in the chat room, folks, because it wouldn't surprise me if Truth Stream Media turn up in there, because Joe's just such an asshat. He really, really is. So then, let's try and sneak in another minute before the hammer comes down. I'm only joking.
But other scientists have come out and posited that this feeling of time speeding up actually has to do with the fact that as we continue to use digital technology, the ability of our brains to process information is what's actually speeding up, and a byproduct of that is this sense that time is speeding up. And that makes more sense, because it does seem that as the years go by, it feels like, wasn't it just Christmas? Then all of a sudden they're selling stuff for Valentine's Day, and now all of a sudden they're selling stuff with Easter bunnies all over it. It just feels like everything is actually just speeding up. But there is a scientific basis for the idea that our brains are actually processing information faster as we use these digital technologies more. It's actually changing the way that we process information.
We're
right.
exposed to more information in one day than the people in the late 1800s were exposed to in a 7 or 8 year period.
So
think of that. Just think of that.
Yeah, that's huge.
Yeah, and we've said for some time, we've kind of hypothesized along the same lines here. It's to do with the data that's out there in the world. It's the fact that there's always constantly something coming for us. And even when I was younger, it's hard for me to think back to the time when, you got the news. You got it maybe at 6 o'clock in the evening, and you'd get the last broadcast about 10 p.m. And then I tried to think to myself, well, how did you find out about what was going on with these stories, like in between times? And that never used to happen.
Just didn't happen.
You never had that data stream coming at you. You never had that at your fingertips.
And then you got radio, right?
Yep.
And radio comes along, and so basically you had newsprint, and you had the morning and the evening editions. Then radio comes along, and you have those updates if you were lucky enough to have a radio in your house. And then eventually the radio becomes like the television set, the pre-television set, and people would get their updates over the air. And then the television comes along, and the television provides news coverage. And then, it starts out in the morning, and then they had it in the evening, and then they had late night, and then they started doing it at lunchtime. Now they've got news networks 24/7. Now you get notifications on your phone.
Yeah, somebody in the chat room, Adam Sarah, says time is still normal, but the internet made it feel as if it's speeded up. Yeah, exactly. It's our perception. It's our
perception of it.
Yeah, it's how our brains are kind of perceiving and decoding time now, Scott, right?
Or maybe it's us not perceiving it, and then it's only when we do that we realize such a large swath of time has passed, because you have so many other things you're focused on that you don't really perceive that passage of time until you do take time to.
Well, how many times have we been sat there, maybe you've put on a video and you've seen something on the recommended list, more so back in the day, because your recommended list now is absolutely jacked. And I know I'm on YouTube and I shouldn't say that, but it is. But you'd sit there, you'd click the next one, and maybe the autoplay one after that, good. But before you know it, you'd look down at the clock on your screen and 2, 3, 4 hours might have passed. You didn't even see it, didn't even register. And that's what every day is like now.
Yeah. It's really crazy. I remember as a kid, because I didn't have all that responsibility, I didn't have all the input coming at me all the time, I know I perceived the passage of time like as it happened. And that's kind of why everything took so long, if you will. And now, because I'm so busy all the time, I don't think about it until I do. And when I do, it's like, holy shit, it's May 1st already? Whoa, where did time go? But in reality, it didn't go any faster.
Yeah, I definitely think that has a lot to do with it. I mean, think about how, like Kev said, you click on one video on YouTube and then you just kind of let it autoplay into the recommended section on the side, and you end up losing 3 or 4 hours and not even realizing it. But it's also the same with like social media. Just think about how many times, how long people sit there just scrolling through their news feed, just looking at stuff and just constantly staring at their phone, and they're not really perceiving the passage of time while they're doing that. They're just taking in all of this data that they're looking at.
And Scott, while you mention that, I want everyone to really think about this now. Really think about it, because anytime you're on social media, you really need to be aware of the fact that every single time you're scrolling, every single post you're seeing, it's been put there by that same algorithm that's trying to work you out. Everything, absolutely everything, the stuff you like, the stuff that angers you, it's all there for that, for some reason or another, Scott.
Yeah. They even have it down to say something catches your attention and you stop scrolling.
Yep.
And you're pausing on it. That the algorithm knows that, they found interest in that. They stopped scrolling and they're kind of staring at it, even if it's for a couple of seconds or whatever. It's just enough to flag into the system that, that piqued their attention. So go ahead and log that into the data point. And
it's that fine-tuned.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's really amazing. Speaking of fine-tuned,
have you got something? Are we going to move gears into the weird and wacky and wonderful? I can tell by that grin on your face. It's the one that you usually pull right before you do Joe Bot.
Well, I got to tell you, man, this is a fine-tune operation that you guys had over in the UK.
Oh, no.
And I think that I need to employ it here because our roads are absolutely riddled with potholes here.
We've got a really novel way of getting them dealt with, dude.
Apparently so. Over in the UK, for all our US listeners, they have devised a way to get their potholes fixed in a very prompt manner. So what they've done is they've taken a can of spray paint and they've gone to said pothole and they've drawn penises around them. And
you see, this is your mind's in the gutter, so is the Metro's, because what I see there is 2 eyes and a big long nose.
I do too. You're right. It is. It could be very well that. But anyway, it says here a council has been shamed into doing something about potholes because people have gone and drawn penises around them to highlight that they were still there and in need of attention. And apparently it's an effective way to sort things out, as they were fixed within days, despite being a problem for a year before that. So, locals are calling it the power of the willy in Middlesbrough. So there you go.
Yeah. I like this. I must admit, if you want to get stuff done, you put down offensive kind of street graffiti. That's the way to get it done, right? Not that we would encourage anyone to do that out there. We'll be deemed a pothole hate group because potholes have rights, probably, in this crazy day and age.
Yeah. I don't know. You might be deemed a terrorist organization for, didn't it say attacking property for defacing the street?
This is the cry of every good revolutionary. There's going to be a penis on every pothole now.
Now that's a way you can make change.
Yeah.
And do so. I mean, somebody said, "Oh no, I see Mickey Mouse." I don't care what you see. The pothole got fixed. It's fantastic.
It's like a life hack, dude.
That's what I'm saying. That's how you do it.
You watch our viewership going down now. There's people running out into the street with cans of paint and everything, man. Telling you it's getting done worldwide.
They're like, the revolution is here.
It won't be televised. It'll be live streamed. Yep.
Yeah.
Come on, Joe. I think we had a story about my favorite earthquake guy as well, didn't we? Yeah, I've got it here. Yeah.
Okay, so
what's he done now? What has Hooger Beats been up to, man?
Last week, the elusive Mr. Hooger Beats issued an earthquake warning where he said that a magnitude 8 tremor to bring total destruction would be here by Friday. Now that was said on Wednesday, May 1st. Unfortunately for Mr. Hooger Beats, and fortunately for whoever he was targeting here, we'll find out in a second, you didn't have a devastating 8.0 earthquake.
Oh no, look what's number 3. Oh no, it's Apex TV and their dodgy pixelated time travelers.
Oh no.
Okay, so here we go. Listen to this. Here we go. Self-confessed New Age earthquake researcher Frank Hooger Beats made the bold claim and warned humanity to be ready. Writing on his website, Deuterium.
Deuterium. It sounds like something you'd run the flux capacitor on, doesn't it?
Yeah, right. Exceptional critical geometry could trigger a major to mega thrust earthquake. Warning, April 30th to 3 May. By the way, it's 4 May. It's 5 May over in the UK. Hey.
Joys have been on a ball.
Says the geometry is very similar to that at the last time of a high 7 to 8 magnitude earthquake. So be on watch. Dun, dun, dun.
Big Hooger Beats, man. Is he going to be like the guy that cried wolf, though? Or am I going to be sitting laughing one day like, oh, Hooger Beats, let's hear your nonsense, and house starts shaking? And
just remember, a broken clock is right twice a day. Okay? It's bound to happen. That doesn't make him right. But again, I just can't figure out why people like this are getting any sort of attention. It's awful. I hate.
I've told you my kind of it's like I'm a bit suspicious. I think people like Hooger Beats. I think people like Paul Begley. I think people like Scott Waring. I think Secure Team 10. I think they work for the same publishing company that owns newspapers like The Express, because they drive traffic to all of these really dodgy channels that are never going to give away anything secret. It's the kind of crap that the mainstream want us to be looking at. They want us to associate with this nonsense. And at the same time, if they're driving so much traffic there, the reason I think there might be an association is just money. You know, there's ads really on all of these. There's ads on all of these videos. They've been caught umpteen times. They still keep doing it. You know, these people know they're the ridiculous ones. They don't ever go to people that are actually doing something decent, like Dutch synths or anything like that, you know?
Right.
So I think there's a conspiratorial industrial complex element to it where they're making big money.
I do too.
Yep.
I really, truly do too. And it's kind of evident. And when you start kind of looking at these on a daily basis for like show prep and things like that, you kind of start to see these patterns emerge, and that's one of them.
And it's interesting that you see these publications like the Express running it, right? When how come the Express isn't running any of Dutch Sense's earthquake warnings, right?
Because he's not under contract. That's why.
Exactly. Plus he gets it right most of the time, you know?
Yeah, so you would think if you were supposed to be a news outlet or news organization that you would want to put information out there that seems to be pretty accurate.
You see, this is something else I was learning about the algorithms as well. You see, this is what gave rise to kind of your more clickbait, your more sensational, your more fake stuff. Because what it worked out was there was more of a psychological effect when people were reading these more hyped up stories, these more kind of loose with the facts, shall we say. I don't want to call fake news because it's such a big thing, big umbrella, so many different ways you could tackle that. But basically, that's why your news feed will maybe one day be really kind of the sensational kind of fear porn stuff. And the reason for that is because the AI is looking for a big response from you for some reason. They want to psychologically get you that day, and it knows that's the best way to do it. You know, it takes longer to build up somebody's trust and somebody that warm and cozy feeling, you know, as opposed to knocking them right between the eyes with something absolutely sensational. That's going to have a bigger psychological payoff, and that's why you see so many dark versus light stories. And this guy that was explaining why the algorithms are what they're doing says that's why groups like ISIS, you know, good thing you get the Arab Spring and people able to a new subscriber able to communicate that way, but you also give rise to the material that ISIS are putting out there because that's more sensational, so it ends up on more people's feeds. It's weird, but that's why I'm really trying to hammer home to everyone. Think to yourself, right, look at the headline, look what it is, but then think, why am I being shown that? What are they trying to do to me by showing me that? It's weird. It's bizarre. But somebody in the chat room asked how we managed to get from pothole wiener to earthquakes in one foul.
That's a question. I have no idea.
That's just how we roll.
It is, but we're going to go from pothole wiener to earthquakes to tornadoes.
That's kind of like it's natural disaster type stuff.
Yeah, we could like clickbait the title then. End of the world scenarios, right?
Hashtag
so, hashtag Begley. So I touched upon this on I posted about it on Facebook yesterday, and
you need to. How many times have I warned you about touching like that, Scott? You need to be watching what you're touching. You know, he's a touchy feely one. This one, Joe.
Very touchy.
Yeah, he's got a big kind of tickle van.
Hey, you know, I've only learned from the best. Biden, you know, he
creepy Uncle Joe.
I know.
He's gonna cuddle his way to the presidency, man. Yeah.
Yeah. So, anyways, yesterday was the 20th anniversary of one of the most horrific tornado outbreaks to ever occur in the United States. And I was personally affected by this. We were ready to take shelter in a closet because an F4 tornado was heading right for our area of town. And luckily it made a right turn right before it hit us. But I'll just kind of read through this here so you can get an idea. And anybody who lives in the Midwest remembers this event, will remember this event. So 20 years ago, on May 3rd, 1999, a total of 74 tornadoes touched down across Oklahoma and Kansas in less than 21 hours. So most of them happened in one afternoon. I remember it was crazy. It said multiple supercells produced the tornadoes, and at one point there were as many as 4 tornadoes reported on the ground at the same time. The strongest tornado rated a maximum F5 on the Fujita tornado scale, tracked for nearly an hour and a half along a 38-mile path from Chickasha through South Oklahoma City and the suburbs of Bridge Creek, Newcastle, Moore, Midwest City, Dell City. The tornado produced record-breaking wind speeds recorded on Doppler radar of 301 miles an hour. And 36 people died in that tornado. And then a tornado that rated F4 strength moved through Hayesville and Wichita, Kansas, as it was down for over an hour with a path of 24 miles. This violent tornado killed 6 individuals, along with damaging 150 homes and 27 businesses. And it says, as the sky cleared, the 2 states counted 46 dead and 800 injured, more than 8,000 homes damaged or destroyed, and total property damage of nearly $1.5 billion. The tornado count in Oklahoma makes May 3rd and 4th, 1999 tornado outbreak the largest ever recorded in the state. And so, yeah, that tornado that went through Hayesville and South Wichita, that was the one that I remember. It happened during the middle of the night. Well, it happened after sunset. That picture that you see of it was right at sunset. And it was terrifying. It was absolutely terrifying. Watching the local news, weather guy, showing that thing coming into the city, and it was headed right for where we lived. And I just remember it, I was in high school at the time. I think I was a sophomore, and my mom was ready to just get everybody into a closet, in the middle of our house. And we could hear it. We could hear it as it passed by.
You see, this is where I start feeling guilty for wanting to go on one of these like storm chasing holidays, thinking it's like, I'm Billy Big Balls, I'll go and sit in one of these cars and things. But you sometimes forget that the power of these things can lead to what we see there. And that is like, that's like, it looks like a nuclear bomb's gone off. Let's face it. That's literally what it looks like. It's just flattened.
If you ever want to see some of the most incredible and horrific images ever broadcast live on television, it's an hour long, but somebody archived the KFOR news coverage from Oklahoma City that day on YouTube, and to get an absolute grasp of how much of a disaster that was. Just watching that storm coverage from that day was insane. And yeah, like I said, so luckily the tornado missed where I was at, but you could hear it. You could hear it pass by, and it was like the sound of it was something between a waterfall and a distant jet engine is what it sounded like. It was just so spooky, and it was dark. It was already like around 11 o'clock at night when it came through. And so, and the wind just, it got dead calm. That's when we started getting really scared, when the wind just stopped. And
it actually causes a vacuum.
It does.
Like a vacuum house. It actually sucks the air out of your house.
We've actually had like an F0, like a very weak tornado, go over this house that I'm in now. And it did a little bit of tree damage and stuff like that, but it made your ears pop because of the vacuum.
Yeah.
And I was nowhere near as concerned or scared when that happened, because I was looking at the radar and stuff, and I'm like, okay, it looks like a little bit of rotation is going to come over the house, but it's not nothing. But that night, the night of the May 3rd outbreak, just because Moore, Oklahoma had already been hit, and so the news was already covering what was happening in Oklahoma. It was kind of all of the news stations around here in Kansas and Oklahoma were all in like total disaster coverage situation, as if it kind of reminded me when the Oklahoma City bombing happened. All of the local news stations around here were just wall-to-wall coverage, and there was no local programming or anything being shown. And so it was like the same thing then when the tornado went through Moore, Oklahoma. Everyone was just covering it, and then later on, the tornado started heading for Hayesville and Wichita, and we were just like, oh my God, because we already knew what happened in Moore. We knew that the kind of tornadoes that were being produced were not little tornadoes. They were all F4, F5s, and it was just a hell of a thing, man. So I thought I would bring that up because that changed a lot of people's lives that day, and it also changed the way storm forecasting was done. And also a lot of the they used to recommend that people go under overpasses and take shelter,
right?
But not anymore. The Moore, Oklahoma tornado changed that whole thing and proved how dangerous it is to actually go under an overpass, because the winds funnel through the overpass and accelerate. And there were a whole bunch of fatalities that occurred because a lot of people went under overpasses and the winds accelerated and sucked them out. And they even found some people under those overpasses where all the flesh and all the flesh and muscle were ripped off of them. That's how extreme the winds were. They were basically sandblasted.
That's amazing.
It was a bad ordeal, but yeah, thought I'd bring that up because I still remember that day just like it was yesterday. It was one of those days that stick out in my mind.
Yeah. What the hell is this, Kev?
What do we got here?
Well, like a bit of ice cream, right? I mean, everyone likes a bit of ice cream, right? Or I did like a bit of ice cream until I seen this headline. Maggot ice cream touted as eco-friendly alternative to traditional dairy-made treat. Roll up, folks. Let's get some maggot ice cream down your neck.
Oh my God, this is Snowpiercer, dude.
It says here, fans of the sweet treat could soon find grubs up in their cornet, with the fly larvae being touted as a high-protein and sustainable alternative to traditional dairy-made frozen product, while interest has been growing in insects as a more eco-friendly food source in the West. A South African food maker has gone a step further and used maggots harvested from flies as a basis for ice cream. Bug ice cream, the world's first. Yeah, no shit, Sherlock. It'll be the world's last if I've got anything to do with it.
Oh,
what's wrong with people?
Dude,
A, for making it, and B, for eating it. What's wrong, man? In fact, I would actually recommend a diet of soy before I would recommend maggot ice cream.
I mean, why maggots? Okay, now look.
Why on Snowpiercer was it cockroach bars, dude? I mean,
yeah, but I mean, at least in Snowpiercer, it was a future like apocalyptic scenario. These are just. Yeah, but I mean, look. I'm half Mexican, and I've eaten some pretty weird things that Mexicans eat, like fried mealworms and stuff like that. But I don't think I would ever go as far as like maggots. That's a different ball game.
No, but maggot ice cream, dude. Look,
Oh,
are we at that point?
oh yes,
Because
we are. Dude.
pretty apocalyptic.
And so wait, did they say did was it? Did you say it was made because it was more ecologically friendly?
Yes, because you know it's an ecological kind of alternative to the dairy product. But it says here, get this, Scott, operating out of Cape Town University of Technology, Gourmet Grub processes the larvae of black soldier flies. Oh, how racist. With other natural ingredients before mixing with flavors such as cocoa and honey in an ice cream making machine. Insects are typically environmentally friendly and sustainable to farm because they use very little land, water, and food to grow on. They aren't at risk of climate change because you can grow them in a controlled environment, sort of an enclosed area. Yeah, it's a safe space for bugs. Yeah. So don't
see it all came back to climate change, and it all came back to that. So
this will save polar bears, Scott. How dare you not take the maggot ice
So
cream?
the question is, are the powers that shouldn't be, are they eating that?
Oh, look at that. Yeah, it looks delicious.
But are they eating that? No. But they'll give it to the masses to eat. You see, it's like pig slop. And that's what I'm talking about. It's like
when they're using human bodies,
put out.
When they're using human compost, Joe, like in Washington State, and they're like feeding us maggots.
What? That's all I have to ask. Are they eating that crap?
Are you ready for your daily ration, Joe? Are you ready for your daily compressed bug bar?
That's what I'm saying. It's coming. This is so crazy.
I know. This is not right. Not right at all, man. That image there, that's your future, folks. That's it.
Yeah.
That's what you're staring at. You know, that's going to come out of like an ice cream whippy machine every morning when you get up, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Just enough larvae to keep you nutritionally going, you know?
Just wait, Kev. They'll end up growing the maggots on compost made from the humans.
This puts a whole new spin on two girls in one cup. I'm telling you. Woo!
Two bugs, one ice cream cone.
Joe's face. Oh, was that too far, Joe?
Just a sad state of affairs. That's all I gotta say, man. It's like H.G. Wells and Huxley and
is this where it all goes
like,
wrong? Is this how it all goes wrong, dude?
I mean, never in my wildest dreams did I think that it would get to this point as fast as it has, but it's here.
Adam in the chat said, Americans already have enough crap, already have a lot of crap in their food. So I mean, you talk about the artificial dyes and the chemicals and crap that we're eating. Is it really any better than eating a maggot?
No.
Right, hang on. No. You sometimes see a story and you think, what? Wait, hang on, let's get this up here. Oh, wow. Right, grown-ups can't stop laughing after discovering a method used to X-ray wriggly babies, right? So, you want to see what they do to wriggly babies to X-ray them? Check this out. What the hell, man? That can't be right.
No.
What the hell?
They put them look at this one. It looks like he's shoved in a food blender, dude.
So if the baby's wiggling
Look
too
at
much,
us, look,
they just
yep.
put them in this.
Here we go, man. No, that's not right.
Nice. They just tie him up, basically.
They just force you into like a food blender scenario.
That's awesome.
What?
It's like a girdle, but
No,
a huge
no
girdle.
wonder he's got a face like that on.
Yeah, that kid is like, what the hell?
See, when
I
he's
like
really like, if he grows up to have issues, I think we could use point back to that incident right there as maybe having something to do with it.
I like it more like a disciplinary device.
Joe's gonna buy some for teenagers now.
Oh, this is good. I like this.
That's just not right, man. I don't even know why I'm
think you have to
laughing.
solve
It's not
some issues
funny.
for me here, Kev.
It's what? Pegostats. They're called Pegostats. Look.
Pegostats, you say?
Pictures of adorable youngsters being squished into a glass contraption showed them being x-rayed in a device called a Pegostat. We're not making this up.
Oh, I like it.
Pegostats have been used since the 1960s and are designed to immobilize wriggly little ones, therefore limiting their exposure to more radiation than necessary while being scanned. So it's actually quite good then.
Yeah.
Oh, it's great. And
Apart
it
from the
also
fact
doubles as a disciplinary device. I see. If you want to scale it up a little bit.
Poor
I don't know.
Ange.
It might look more uncomfortable than maybe it actually is. I mean, you don't really see the kids screaming and crying or anything.
No.
Well, I don't know, dude. This guy looks really pissed.
Yeah, he looked very happy about the whole situation.
He's like, I'm going to remember
very
your
happy
face.
about this situation. I think that's wonderful.
Joe loving it. Well, we're almost out of time, guys.
We are out of
We
time.
are. What's happening in the chat room before we go? We'll see what's happening in there. Probably people want to throw me under a bus for laughing at that, but hey-oh. This kid will grow up disturbed. Adam says that. Exactly. Dick Richards,
I think
it's
the kid's going to grow
necessary.
up to be a fine young man.
It's necessary. I get that. What the hell, Kev? Hey, don't blame me, dude. I provide, you decide. It's not me shoving kids into food blender type machine things. Not me.
Somebody said, Epic Journeyman says it looks like Alex Jones.
Gay frogs.
Yeah. Oh, pardon me. Gay frogs. Yes.
Gay frogs. You can't say the Jones word anymore. I've told you that, Joe. What have I warned you about? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know.
Man. Nah. I have to get this wee guy off the screen. I'm actually feeling disturbed for him. And Joe's actually away to commission building one of these things. Look.
This is great.
Yeah. Joe's
So
already
what a
thinking about how to. He's already thinking about how to scale it up.
Another
beautiful
great show.
idea.
Thank you. Have a great weekend. No, thank you. We've got Paddy Mills in there as well. Shout out for a few people before we go. Who else do we see? We see War in there. For anyone who doesn't know, War is actually QAnon. I'm only joking. It's pamphlets Q, but we say War's Q anyway. D-Nice. And he says, my daughter-in-law had that x-ray done 20 years ago. There you go. Ben Mack, great show. Awesome. Well, I've had a blast, boys. Joe's been on fire. He's been in absolutely...
Are we simulcasting on DLive?
Yes, we are, Scott. We are.
I haven't been able to be in there, so I'm sorry, people.
I remember.
on
I even.
DLive, but I want to give everyone on DLive that may be watching a shout out as well. So
I even remember to title the D live stream this week. I gave it the thumbnail. I gave it everything. I remember to turn the volume down as well, since I usually end up shouting at Joe, but it's not ever Joe's fault. But it's all right because it's good to shout at Joe, right? Look at that face.
So any of you guys out there who may have donated on DLive through some lemons or ice creams, Kev's way, thank you very much.
And I'm going to be doing a bit more gaming over on DLive because I'm starting to move up the ranks now, Scott, on the old team deathmatch. You know, I'm sitting laughing in the background here, but starting to get a little bit tasty at that. I actually.
I might join you, Kev, because I like team deathmatch.
Yes, and Joe is going to have to depart, so we will all take our leave now, folks. So I'll play you out with Joe's favourite porn music, if I can find it. No, I won't do that. Joe, Scotty, it's been a blast. Are we back tomorrow? Is Popeye with us tomorrow? Are we here tomorrow?
Yeah, you betcha.
We'll be back. Okay, then. So we'll be back tomorrow, folks. Same time-ish, same place. keep an eye on YouTube. You'll get a notification, hopefully. If you want to join the channel, please do so. We get a new emoji soon. We're going to have a Scott Shrek thing going on, perhaps, maybe. Who knows? So until tomorrow, later, y'all.